Welcome to another edition of Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight. You follow me, I'll follow you back. Once again, here we are, Victory Tuesday. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won 2 games in a row. And we're going to talk about that tonight. But to kick things off, I'm joined by my esteemed co-host, the offensive and defensive coordinator of Buck What You Heard, Michael Pless. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, Gene. Like you said, another victory Tuesday, like you like to call it. I mean, it's awesome, and it's going to be a great week. Thanksgiving this week, so a lot of good things coming up, and just happy that the Bucs pulled out a win. It wasn't pretty, but hey, they got it done.
You know what, man? A win is a win, and
Yeah.
I've kind of gone back and forth with some people that want to throw stats in my face, but you know what? I don't care. Keep your stats. A win is a win. That's what it comes down to for coaches losing jobs. That's what it comes down to for coaches keeping jobs, wins and losses. That's the most important thing right there. It may not have been a pretty win, but the fact that the Bucs executed it at the end of the game, they got a 3 and out. And hats off to our kicker, which, if you're looking right now at this part of the season, if you go back to the beginning of the season, this was the Achilles heel of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the kicking game. And here we are. We have Patrick Murray going out and doing what he does. And it's just good to see him, making those kicks and really putting us in a position to win. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, something that we can. I mean, he's been consistent, since he's got here, and it's really nice to see. It's really refreshing. He's a guy that I didn't want the Bucs to let go when he first was here, back in 2014. It's unfortunate he got hurt, right before the season. And just to have him back it's been a blessing. Now have him and Brian Anger, 2 of the best kickers in the league right now. I mean, on his way. He's only 27 years old, so I would definitely like to, lock him up long term. I think he's definitely earned it, and I think as the season goes on, hopefully he can continue to have good success. But it wasn't pretty win. I mean, there was a lot of mistakes on both sides of the ball. It looked like Miami just wanted to give us the game to start off in the first half. And then in the second half, we have that lead, and then I don't know, for whatever reason, the Bucs decided to change game plans and really got away from them. And it looked like it was going to go into overtime. Bucs made some plays at the end there, and Pat Murray took care of it. But hey, like you said, a win's a win. We're 4-6. Got a big test coming up this week against Atlanta, but solid win.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And this is what it's all about. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people want to throw statistics out there. The Bucs didn't do this. The Bucs didn't do that. But at the end of the day, a win is a win, and that's what it all comes down to. The things that I was complaining about, the 3 and outs, the Bucs defense not getting guys off the field, not getting offenses off the field when they needed to. They were able to come through in the fourth quarter and do what they needed to do. They weren't able to do that throughout the game, but when it counted, that's what you saw, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going out and doing what they needed to do. So I'm excited. 2-game winning streak. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a start. I mean, they have still a long way to go. There's still a lot of inconsistencies on this team. It starts with offensively, it starts with the offensive line. Running game has been inconsistent. Line is still not there where it needs to be. It's still up and down. To see this team create an identity, and for whatever reason, it's just not happening right now. Same thing on defense. At times we are aggressive, but you like to see that throughout the whole game. Allow this defense to attack and get after the football. And, turnovers does help with that. And that was really the big difference in this game. The Bucs win the turnover battle 5-0. Do that, you're usually going to win the game. So start I mean, that's positive. I think we're plus in the turnover margin now, which is good. Third downs is still an issue. It's a big issue for this team. Still can't convert consistently on third down on offense. Defensively, we struggle to get teams off the field, especially in third and long situations, which we have to be better at. So yeah, I mean, good positive win, but it's still a lot of things that this team has to work on and get better at.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what gets me right, and I'm not taking anything away from this win. I'm happy to have a win. I would love to see the Bucs win out the rest of the season, but the one thing that frustrates me is the way the Bucs dominated this game in the first half. They went totally conservative in the second half, and that frustrated me. The game, you know what? I understand as a head coach, a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, if things are not working for you, you go out there and you make adjustments. However, if your team is winning, if your team is getting turnovers, your team is winning the turnover battle on defense, your team is making plays on offense, and you turn around and you go conservative in the second half, that's a problem. You play to win. You play not to lose. You're supposed to play to win. And that's the biggest problem that I had with that game or on Sunday, was the fact that the Bucs totally changed their game plan around in the second half. I understand it's Matt Moore. Matt Moore is a second string quarterback. You should be able to adjust according to what he's doing and keep going according to your plan. Do not play like you are up 50 points. You play like you're down 20 points and you're trying to keep this momentum going. That's the problem that I had with this game right here.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Offensively, everything's working with OJ Howard, and for whatever reason, we just decide to go away from him.
Yeah, they totally went away from him.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, why are you not, attacking that mismatch, consistently when OJ Howard is just beating his man, pretty much every play he was on the field, and he was open pretty much the whole game. And I don't understand why he wasn't the primary option on most plays. Same thing with Deshaun Jackson. I thought Deshaun Jackson had a lot of mismatches with who he was going up against. And for whatever reason, he didn't get enough targets.
This is what frustrated me. They did not have an answer for OJ Howard, and you go away from him. I mean, I'm trying to rationalize how you do that. This guy is balling out. I mean, you cannot guard him. And you know what? If you do guard him, why not get Cameron Brate involved? Right. There are other pieces to this team, and it just seems like they totally went away from OJ Howard, and they lost the momentum that they had in the first half.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling because plays that are working, and for whatever reason, they don't call them again. They don't set up the same formation and call different primary options, and that's what good offenses do. They do a lot of plays in the same formations, but they just adjust it by calling a different primary option. So you're just pretty much changing the play a little bit, but going to a different read. Same thing happened on the just look at the 2 touchdowns that the Bucs scored. The first one to OJ Howard, and then the second one to Deshaun Jackson. They're pretty much the same play.
Yeah.
And they just changed the primary option, and Deshaun gets the second touchdown easily. So it's just little things like that are just in to see, because this offense shouldn't really be stopped. They have so many players that can make plays.
And another thing, and this is another thing, I'm gonna throw this your way, and I want to get your honest answer on this. But Chris Godwin has been balling out, and he's been making plays away from the ball. However, he's not getting the ball like he should. I'm looking at Adam Humphries has dropped some passes. And I'm not taking anything away from. I'm a big Adam Humphries fan, always have been. And if you can go back through my podcast and see what I say, but I'm telling you, Chris Godwin has been balling out, and he deserves to get a little bit more time with what's going on. what happened with YouTube. Basically, YouTube demonetized me, saying this is not a family friendly show anymore. So fuck them. So that's pretty much how I feel about it. And it is what it is. But Sean, what's up? Kind of, Michael Plus, going back to you and what I was saying earlier. Chris Godwin, he had some really nice blocks downfield. I mean, every time I see him, he's making contact with a defensive player, whether it's a linebacker, whether it's a cornerback, whatever. He's making plays, and he's earned more looks. I mean, he hasn't dropped a whole lot of balls. I mean, just basically what I'm seeing from him, I would like to see Tampa get him more involved in the offense. This is another weapon. If you're not going to go to OJ Howard, this is just another weapon that you can kind of look at. I know a lot of people are talking about the offensive line. The offensive line is giving Fitz enough time to get these quick reads. And it just appears to me that the play calling is not what it should be. And you know what? I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon, get rid of the head coach. I'm just saying that what we're seeing, like from this game, there were a lot of plays that could have been made that weren't made based on the play calling. What do you think?
Yeah, let's go back to Godwin. I think in my article that I put up at realbuckstock.com, Chris Godwin deserves to start, point blank and simple. I think he needs to be a starter. I think you need to move Deshaun Jackson to the slot, allow Chris Godwin and Mike Evans operate on the outside. I think it would do good things for your running game just because of Chris to block. But then you'd also set up mismatches in the slot with Deshaun Jackson, allow him to get more space, in the slot position, and then also have the ability to, throw more passes toward Chris Godwin where he can, manhandle his guy because he can go up there and get it. He's got a good catch radius, same as Mike Evans does. So I think he should be a starter. I think he's earned his opportunity. I think with Adam Humphries kind of struggling a little bit the last couple of weeks, I think has kind of hurt him. I think it's just time. It's time for this to see what he can do in an expanded role. Now he is getting more on the field in a blocking capacity, but I'd like to see him be, that full-time number 2 option. But again, I understand that, there's only one football, so that does play a part in it. But open up the offense and have the best players on the field. I think you kind of owe it to Chris Godwin to put him out there. As far as the offensive line and how that goes, details that are just being missed, a lot of technique issues across the board. Guys are just missing on plays. It's either Donovan Smith one play and then it's J.R. Sweezy on another. So getting pushed back too far. So it's a combination of things. Scheme as well, where guys are not blocking it properly. Outside zone runs abandoned. I think they need to go more power scheme and just go north and south. They need to stop doing the east and west.
Stop the east and west. Please stop the east and west. Everybody they've run up against, the linebackers are fast enough to get into the holes, and they're blowing up these plays. They're blowing them up. Okay. Yeah. I can't understand why, if something's not working, you keep going to it. But you're running the ball straight up the middle, and you're getting 1, 2, 5, 6, 2, 5 yards per carry. I mean, that's a positive. But when you're running east and west, you're not getting anywhere. It's a blown up play.
Yeah,
it's a wasted down. And until the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can get efficient with moving the ball down the field on a regular basis, you need every play, first through third down, is a premium play. You have to make those plays in order to extend the drive. If you're not doing that, there's a problem. And until they can see that and say, hey, we need to adjust and we need to fix this. We're the Bucs are going to continue to have these problems. And again, I'm not that guy that comes on here looking for all the negatives. All I'm saying is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had opportunity after opportunity, whether it's first down and 10. You can get 5 yards, dumping the ball off to an open receiver, dumping the ball off to a running back. However, you go for the big play and it puts you in the hole. So again, I'm not a defensive coordinator. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm not a head coach. But what I'm seeing right now is they're not taking advantage of the plays that are in front of them. You hit an open OJ Howard at first, and he's at the 5. He gets 5 more yards. He could extend that to 6 to 10. You know what I mean? But we're just not seeing that. They're going for the home run. You can't do that. I mean, right off the bat, you just can't do it.
Right. Yeah, and back to the running game, I think it's being more consistent with their power running game. I think they get away from it too early. I would like to see them use more lead blockers and allow Doug Martin to just run downhill. I know a lot of people say he's more of a zone runner. I understand that, where he can cut back and stuff, but I like to see him just go north and south, because I think that's where he gets through that first level. He's really good. You got to find ways to get him to the second level, and for whatever reason, just not happening in the zone runs. So that's something that's got to change. It's different. Same thing with the toss plays. I mean, those plays should just be thrown out of the playbook and burnt to the ground. Like seriously, just take them out and never run them again, because if I see them and at the TV, but
I know you want to throw a brick to the TV. And Michael, let me ask you this, and tell me if I'm wrong. When we're seeing Doug Martin run straight through the hole, straight up the middle, he's getting yardage, he's gaining. But when you're running that toss sweep, you've got linebackers that are filling these holes, and they're able to blow up the play, and you're stuck. You may lose 2 yards off of this. It's just it's not working. Why? Me and you, we look at game film, and we're some, you're a blogger and you're a co-host to a sorry podcast. But at the end of the day, we see this. We see that there's an issue here, and I'm not understanding what the coaching is seeing. Is it arrogance? Is it what is it that they feel like, hey, we're going to run this play against a different team and it's going to work? What is it that we're seeing that they're not seeing, or vice versa?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, that's a mysterious question right there. I mean, it's mind-boggling to think they're not seeing this. I mean, just being stubborn in their ways and trying to, fit a round peg in a square hole. And it's just not working. I mean, there's no reason to continue to run toss plays when your offensive line just can't get out there fast enough. J.R. Sweezy, I think, is struggling with his back injury from last year still. It just seems like he doesn't have with his head movement to get his head turned around quick enough, as far as knowing where guys are, his hips fast enough. I think he's just playing stiff. I mean, if you watch Sweezy play, he just can't get the churn of motion that he needs to be successful. I mean, you look at that screenplay to Doug Martin, tackled in the backfield, and it didn't work. I mean, he didn't even see Kiko Alonso coming around the edge. Yeah, it's a lot of things. Yeah, it's a lot of things that are just not.
The NFL is it's a game of adjustments, and in my personal opinion, as I'm looking at the game, as I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when the Bucs go into the locker room in halftime, they have enough information to where they can make adjustments. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean the
Okay.
stats are there. They're always their tablets. They have what is needed to consistently making adjustments on the sideline after each drive. So I just don't get it why they continue to kinds of identity at all. You know, there's no offense. The game management is very poor, continues to be poor with from the head coach to the offensive staff. I mean, continue to see delay of games which we shouldn't
Dude,
see.
that is an issue that should be resolved in preseason. In training camp,
Right.
you should be fixing those kind of issues. False starts and delay of games should never
Mhm.
occur during the regular season. Period.
Right.
End of story. I don't care who it is. It could be the Cleveland Browns. It cannot happen, but we
Right.
continually see it happen.
Mhm. And just the overall play calling is just it's been so inconsistent. Like you just can't come out in five wide sets and then go into a three tight end set and try to build an identity. You know, you got to understand who you are and what your strengths are and play to them consistently. And for whatever reason, figure that out yet. It's just so up and down. Like
The
it's like
only
they're
way,
just throwing.
and just think, we're here talking about this. The only way I can see that working is if your air game, if you're able to get the ball to your wide receiver, if you're able to get the ball to the tight end, if you're able to get the ball to the wide receiver or the running back who's in this set that this no back set that you're running, that's the only way I can
Mhm.
see it working. But they've not been able to produce when they're running stuff like this. And again, I attribute part of it to inaccuracy by the quarterback. I attribute some of it to the wide receivers or the running backs or the tight ends and not catching the ball. There's a lot of blame to go around, but at the end of the day, the Bucs need to improve this so they can win these games.
Mhm.
We're in the toughest, in my opinion, the toughest part of the season is right now. From the Atlanta Falcons all the way to the Carolina Panthers, this is the toughest part of the season for the Tampa Bay Bucs. So
Mhm.
again, they've got to fix these problems. These are problems they should have
Mhm.
fixed at the beginning of the season, but we're still seeing
Yeah.
consistently the same issues.
Yeah, and it just like the 2 touchdown plays that the Bucks ran, I mean, they should have been running that play the whole game. I mean, it
Mhm.
was working. The Dolphins couldn't figure out how to stop it because it's like, who do you cover? Because you have Deshaun Jackson coming across, you have OJ Howard coming across. It's a natural pick play, and they should have been running it the whole game. I mean, it would have been open all day, and you would easily get first down. Same thing, you know, you have Mike Evans going, running a deep post. I mean, there's options there, and for whatever reason, they didn't go back to it after the touchdowns, and it baffles me. And the same thing with the ground game. I think Doug Martin started the game with 6 carries for 31 yards. He ended up with 19 carries for 38 yards. I mean, that's
Why do you
pathetic.
go away from that?
I
I
mean,
don't
why
understand.
yeah, why are you not running the ball more up the middle where he's showing success, running the ball off your guards who can move people downhill if they're moving downhill, but when they have to move vertically or I'm sorry, not vertically, but laterally, they struggle. They're allowing inside penetration, their blocks to get
Exactly.
to the linebacker.
And until you get the personnel to address those issues, you have to go with what
Right.
works. If you're running the ball up the middle and you're having success, why do you turn around and switch everything out? It doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me. It's
I don't
very,
get it.
and
And
again, it's frustrating for the fans. And shout out to all the season ticket holders and shout out to everybody that buys tickets for these Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. My heart goes out to you guys because you guys are the ones that are loyal and drop your hard-earned money to go to these games. And we're seeing the same thing over and over and over again. The one
Mhm.
thing that I will say that was a positive to me and this would only speak to I'm only going to be able to speak to the first half, is how aggressive the defense was. The defense was balling out. The defense was doing what they needed to do and getting turnovers and stuff like that. The defense was getting these guys off the field, but the second half, they went soft. It's like, you know what, the Viagra wore out and you're going soft the rest of the game. What's going on for real? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. It's for whatever reason, they're playing okay in the first half. I thought they did some good things, some bad things. Still too many, big plays given up in my opinion. But when they had to make plays, when they had to get, off the field on third down, they did that. Made big plays by getting. I thought, Justin Evans played pretty strong. I thought that interception that he had was a thing of beauty.
Yes.
Just shows what his skill set can bring. Just play man coverage and go one-on-one. Good to see. It was good to see that. And then thought I had his best game of this season so far. I thought actually the last 2 weeks, I think he's been really good. So
hey, while we're on this subject, sort of, we're talking about defense a little bit. I'm going to ask you, and as the co-host of the show, the defensive offensive coordinator here, do I need to add Justin Evans to the apology tour for the end of the season? Has he arrived to a point where I should be apologizing for being pissed off that the Bucs drafted him?
I don't know about that yet. I think he's making I think he's making strides. I think he's making strides to that apology tour, but he's not with yet. Now, Kendall Beckwith earned his stripes. He's already there.
Oh yeah.
And that's another thing that pisses me off is they're not letting him go, Kendall Beckwith, that is, as far as rushing the passer. That is ticking me off. I think they need to let him just go and be aggressive and get after the quarterback because he's probably one of our better pass rushers.
And tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like the defensive coordinator is holding these guys back from what they're able to do. They're not playing to their strengths. I mean, I look at Kendall Beckwith. I saw them running him off the edge last, not this game, but the game before, and he was having success.
Right.
I mean, that quarterback was under duress, but you didn't see the same thing this week. And I would like to see them continue because this linebacker core is the strength of this defense. And it's not the front. It's not the front four. It's not your defensive tackle, defensive lineman. It's your linebackers that are the playmakers on this defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just like to see them be unleashed more. I mean, I like when Quan, blitzes. I mean, the first play he goes in on a blitz and almost sacks Jay Cutler. I believe it was Levante too, but I would just like to see them utilized more in that way where they're allowed to just get after it and roam freely. 3-3-5 where they play that defense and just allow them to attack. And this defense is at their best when they're just going after the football. They're all up on the line, causing havoc and making plays in the backfield. That's what this defense needs to do. And for some parts of the game, they were doing that against Miami, but it just wasn't consistently enough. Second half was just terrible. Defensively, it was pretty awful. They allowed a lot of big plays outside of Gerald McCoy, who again was dominant. Same thing.
And you know what? I've been a little bit critical of Gerald McCoy this year, but this game was rock solid. This guy went out and did what he's supposed to do as Gerald McCoy. I look at Donkey Kong Sue on the other side of the ball, and I'm looking at what he's doing. I'm looking at what Gerald McCoy is doing. And you know what? I'm happy the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have Gerald McCoy as opposed to Donkey Kong Sue.
And McCoy is another player that's getting held back by the defense coordinator as well because they continue to run these stupid stunts that get them nowhere. And they're not allowing McCoy to go north and south.
Let them hunt the quarterback. That's what they're supposed to do.
Right. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And again, I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, just defensively, for whatever reason, they got away from the game plan. Same thing as the offense. And like I told what the Buck earlier tonight, I was like, calling leads to inconsistent execution, and that's what you're seeing right now from this team. It's just too much inconsistencies everywhere across the board from play calling. If you're inconsistent with your play calling, you're going to be inconsistent on the field. I mean, it's going to happen.
Exactly. And again, my expectations were this, that
Yeah.
you've got a defensive coordinator. He's able to assess talent. He should be able to see these guys and say, hey, this is what you're capable of doing. These are my expectations for you. What I'm seeing is a defensive coordinator that's scared that his defensive team is going to miss on plays and give up a big play. So he's playing conservative. That's what I see. And I've gone back and looked at this. I've asked some people about it. Nobody's willing to say, hey, you're right or you're wrong. This is what I see. There is talent on this defense, and this defense should be allowed to hunt. Joe McCoy, he should be allowed to go get that quarterback. Clint McDonald should be allowed to go get the quarterback. You've got Levante David, you've got Quan Alexander, you've got Kendall Beckwith, all proven to go hunt that quarterback. And I'm unsure what the defensive coordinator's idea is for this defense and how he's, what his expectations are for getting them to be the best that they can be.
Yeah, and I would say they did miss Vernon Hargreaves. I think his presence was, him not being there, I think that did hurt. Just his ability in the slot to take away that slot receiver is huge. It just shows you, what kind of talent he is. And I think fans, they had their criticisms early, but I think he's found his niche in the slot.
They can kick rocks too, as far as I'm concerned. I know he was a number 1 draft pick. I get that. Vernon Hargreaves was a number 1 draft pick. Maybe that's not his play. Vernon Hargreaves was an upgrade over Alteron Werner. Okay. Originally you had Darrelle Revis, who came in, who was here when this whole regime started, but they decided we're going to get rid of him and we're going to bring in Alteron Werner, who was a Pro Bowler at the time. Alteron Werner came in, and they pretty much decided he wasn't our guy. We're going to bring in Vernon Hargreaves, who was an upgrade. Once they stabilized that secondary last year, I felt like, I know he got picked on a lot because Brent Grimes was on the other side of the field, but I thought he did a great job for a rookie defensive back. And again, we haven't even entered into his 3rd season. You cannot assess talent on a rookie or a draft pick based on 2 seasons. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
It's unrealistic. Okay. It's unrealistic. You can say whatever you want to about him. He's getting burnt. He's getting blown up. He's getting this. He's getting that. But you cannot assess talent on a draft pick unless it's 3 years or more. Okay. End of story. You can say whatever you want to about him. If he's a bust, I heard Gerald McCoy was a bust after year 2, after he had that other injury that he had. But then what does Gerald McCoy turn around and do? He goes to the Pro Bowl, and he's been consistent ever since then. I'm sorry. I understand fans. I understand the fans that go to the games. I understand you guys. Okay. I understand that you pay a lot of money to go to these games, to see your team play, whatever, and you expect results. And I'm sorry, I'm not making excuses, but when you draft somebody, it takes a little bit of time. Not everybody adjusts at the same speed as everybody else does. I like Vernon Hargreaves in the slot. I realize he was a 1st-round pick. I get that. But where they have him now, where he's being successful, is helping this team win or helping this team solidify a position. So to me, I'm good with what he's doing. And you could see him not in the game last week and how big of a difference that made.
And it also goes to coaching as well. I mean, the coaching has to understand that what suits him best is playing press man. I think he finally figured that out, playing more press man coverage, allowing him to be aggressive and attack the football. I thought when he was playing outside, when Brent Grimes was out against the Panthers, I thought he looked excellent, especially when he was allowed to play the left side of the field. I think that's where his comfort zone is, playing on that left side. And I think that's something that the Bucs need to look into going forward, especially next year, because I think eventually he's going to be back on the outside. I think that's where he fits. And, as a first round pick, I think that's where the team wants him to be. And I think he can have success there, especially when he's allowed to be aggressive and go downhill, man. And I think that's something we're going to see from him going forward. But for now, I think the slot is a good way to build his confidence and get him going, and get that swagger back. Because really, a lot of it was just lost confidence. I think he was just
I'm right there
too
with
much.
you.
And
I'm right there with you, because you saw the back end of the season last year. He wasn't scared to go up against anybody. And the one thing that I will say about Vernon Hargreaves, he played in the SEC, and I know that there have been some wide receivers he didn't have success against, like your Amari Cooper and, players like that. But at the end of the day, he was successful enough to where the Bucs looked at him as a first-round pick. So, again, let's see how this plays out before everybody buries this guy, just like they tried to bury Joe McCoy. Now, a question for you, and this is an interesting question from Two Scoops. He was asking what position is the main position that the Bucs should be looking at next season. I'm not going to answer a whole lot of these questions, because there's still a lot of football to be played between now and the end of the season. But it's a very interesting question, as I'm getting drawn more into college football as we get closer to the bowl games. Who should these listeners be looking at as a player that could potentially be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer?
Yeah, I think you got to start with the offensive line and the defensive line. I think it starts up front. I think that's where this team needs to really heavily invest in. It has to do offensive linemen next offseason, as linemen, and whether that's in the draft or free agency or both, maybe more. We really have to invest into the lines. The trenches can't be ignored, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We really got to find some edge rushers that can help out, Gerald McCoy. You'll have Noah Spence coming back next year, but still, you got to have multiple guys. You look at the best defenses, they have guys that rotate in and out and just keep coming. I mean, you can just bring player after player. You look at the Seahawks, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they have multiple guys that can rush the passer. This team needs desperately for the offensive line. We really have to build up the offensive lines are below average. I hate to say it. I think Kevin Panfield just hasn't been good this season. I think he's on his way out.
Now, let me, with that question right there, you're talking about Kevin Panfield. Do you think it's coaching? Do you think it's just him? Do you think it's a season, or it's just an anomaly where he can get better? Or is there anything that, that sticks out to you about him? Because I'm a big Kevin Panfield fan. The fact that he was a late round pick and he stuck around to where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are able to utilize him. Could there be a nagging injury that we don't know about? What is it about this season that has kind of held him back?
I don't know. For whatever reason, he's just been really inconsistent. I think from a pass blocking standpoint, I think he's been solid. I think he's been okay, just in the run game. But this goes for the whole offensive line. It just hasn't been working. So it could be a combination of things. It could be coaching as well as just him having a bad year. I mean, it does happen. Players do have down years, and for whatever reason, he just hasn't been the guy that he was for the year before. So taking that jump forward in his game, And that's the reason why you've seen the rotation of him and Evan Smith. For whatever reason, it just hasn't worked consistent enough as far as his overall strength and pushing guys back and player. But that goes for the same. I mean, J.R. Sweezy has been below average as well. So
you totally stole my question, because that was the next guy I was going to ask you about. Do you feel like that whole season off has had an adverse effect on J.R. Sweezy? Do you think he can bounce back and be a positive force? Because we've seen flashes of J.R. Sweezy throughout the year, but it just hasn't been anything consistent. Do you feel like J.R. Sweezy could be that dude next year?
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, me and Mark have been talking about him, you know, and I feel that.
And where is Mark? Mark, I know you're watching this show. You're a no call, no show. I'm gonna have to fire you, bro. I'm sorry. You're supposed to be on here tonight. I tried to bribe your wife, but it just didn't work. And I don't know what else I can do for you. But anyway, go back to it.
You know, me and him were talking, and he had the back surgery last off season, and we feel he probably had a fusion done, you know, a fusion to his back, and what that does is it can make you very stiff as a player. Your range of motion the same. It won't be the same actually, and it's just it just looks like it's hard for him to move laterally when he's, you know, moving east and west. And, you know, turned around, you know, when he's out on the screens, it just seems like he struggles to pick up players, especially if they're not right in front of his face, left or the right. He has trouble. It's out. You know, I've seen it against the Jets where he just completely missed his guy that he's supposed to go get. And like his awareness is just not there on the field. And now that could be where it's just rust. But I mean, you've been playing for 10 weeks now or 11 weeks.
Yeah, man. And that's been my whole argument throughout the season. I understand the first 5-6 games, you're getting your feet around you. You're trying to build that chemistry with whatever side of the ball you're on, whether it's the defensive line, whether it's your secondary, whether it's your offensive line, whether it's special teams, whether it's your running backs. You're trying to build that cohesion with the rest of the team. It shouldn't take this long. And, you know, another thing, while we're on this subject, that's kind of frustrated me is the fact that it took this long for the defense to all come together and say, hey, we're watching game film together. We're going to figure out what's going on so we can fix it. There has to be a sense of urgency. I mean, if you have a two-game losing streak, there has to be a sense of urgency. Hey, there's a problem here. We need to fix this now. And again, you can blame the coaches all you want, but at the end of the day, the coaches are not out on the field. It's the players on the field that are going to make the difference. And again, the coaches are not in the locker room with the players. It's up to the players to go out there and make these adjustments at times. And you kind of get to see who's stepping up and doing what needs to be done, as opposed to other players who are just sitting back watching everything unfold. Levante David, been here for a while. Gerald McCoy, been here for a while. These guys have seen this before. This is not a new movie for them, especially Gerald McCoy, going all the way back to Raheem Morris and what happened after that meltdown in 2011. He should be able to identify this and say, hey, you know, there's some stuff we need to do because I've seen this before in 2011 when his team melted down, and we should be able to bounce back from this and you know, make a difference. So again, in the locker room, people need to be stepping up and doing what they need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it starts with accountability, and everyone's got to be accountable. It starts with the players, starts with the coaches. Your leaders have to step up and take charge.
Or do you have leaders? That's the question.
That's
Because again,
someone.
I go back to when you've got a 2-game losing streak. In my mind, if I've been and I'm just watching this all unfold, if I've seen this before in 2011, where you were 4-2, and then all of a sudden you lose every single game to the end of the season, I've seen this before. I know what's happening. I know what's getting ready to happen, and I know what's going to happen after that. You have to be able to identify this stuff and say, hey, we got to fix this right now. You've got veterans. I mean, this isn't the same type of team that you saw in 2011. This is a team that has veterans on this team. You got guys that played in a Super Bowl. You got guys that won a Super Bowl on that defense. There is no reason in my mind that the Bucs should be where they are right now, just because there should have been a sense of urgency sooner. I don't know. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, not at all. I completely agree. I like to see a sense of urgency to start games. It just seems like, and this has happened way too many times this year. We come out flat, whether it's defensively or offensively. It just seems like it's churn. Especially on the road. Defensively, it just seems like they just don't decide to show up, and that was a little bit of the case. At times they showed up, and then other plays it was just have too many mental breakdowns where they lose their edge and go blank for all of a sudden. So that's a good question, but it's a line. I think they just have to be better. It starts with the guard play, and I think you're talking about players for next year. I think front, this team has to start building in the trenches.
Right. Games, there's a cliche, and they say it's a cliche. Games are won and lost in the trenches. And unfortunately, in my opinion, that's always been the case. I'm looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, for example.
Yeah.
They're doing what they need to do. And they're doing it, at a special level. I look at the New England Patriots. They're doing what they need to do. Another team that's winning in the trenches is the Philadelphia Eagles. As much as I hate those bums, they're doing what they need to do. They're winning like they're supposed to. And they're winning on both sides of the ball, whether it's the offensive line or the defensive line. Your quarterback is you're keeping your quarterback clean. And on the other side of the ball, you're getting pressure on the quarterback, which is causing problems for him, which is helping your front line, your secondary, and your linebackers. So again, they're doing it on both sides of the ball. And I think that that's where Tampa needs to be. It's where they're not there now, but that's where they need to be in order to really, move forward with this team to where they're going to the playoffs and consistently winning and not stressing fans out and not causing fans to drink massive amounts of alcohol because they're playing conservative in the second half, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And, another team to look at is just the team in our division. I mean, you look at the New Orleans Saints and what they've done in the draft the past couple of years, really invested in their offensive line and defensive line, star players to help their offense as far as Kamara now, who they picked up. You look at pretty much their whole rookie class from this past year was outstanding. Getting a Marcus Williams, getting a Marshawn Lattimore, just adding a multitude of guys that have really helped them and become more physical up front. Especially that offensive line is nasty. You have Andres Pete who plays inside. Now you have Teron Armstead in that offensive line that can push people. Running game becoming a more balanced team, and then defensively, people, which was their biggest issue, forced to be reckoned with.
Okay, let me ask you this, and this is just based on your assessment of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from game one to the present. What is it going to take for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to have a breakout season like what we've seen from the New Orleans Saints? Are they capable of having this?
I don't know. Me and Mark have discussed this, and it's just
Because
we
we all were pretty much in consensus that the New Orleans Saints were not going to be that good this year.
right. Well, we didn't expect their rookie class to take off like it has. I mean, they have 6 rookies that make a big impact on their team right now, and it's really turned the tables for them. Also adding a Ted Ginn Jr. It's just their offseason has really worked. Plus, they have the coaches that really understand how to put their players in position to succeed. Makes
Do
a
the
difference.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the coaches to put their players in specific positions? And the reason I ask this, and real simple here, I look at who they've have, and I look at what they were able to do last year, and I was expecting to see that transition to this year with limited problems, and we just haven't seen it.
Yeah, to answer your question, it's pretty much no. I mean, right now we don't have the coaches that are consistently being good and consistently putting guys in the right place to succeed. That shows how the season has gone. It's been so inconsistent, and it starts with your coaching. I know players are supposed to execute, but not believing in what they're asked to do, it's hard to fully commit to what you and go all out. And it just seems like players are resenting of what is being called, and that leads to issues. And now I think the last 2 weeks and I think they've done a better job of committing to what their job is. The season there was some tension and it showed that position bad things happen, and that's pretty much what occurred during that 5-game losing streak. I don't think the coaches are here. I look at the Saints. I look at Sean Payton. He understands how to take advantage of mismatches, how to attack weaknesses. Cutter hasn't figured out how to do yet. That goes back to 2015 when he was just offense coordinator. Offense struggled hard, but we struggle to score points. Same things that happened back then. If you really watch the tape and you really look into it, ongoing issue. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's we got 6 more games left, and see what we can do about it.
Yeah, and again, the question still remains: are these your head coaches? Are these the guys that will get you to the playoffs? And there's a lot of question marks right now. And the fact that the Bucs started off as slow as they did, 5-game losing streak, that puts a lot of pressure on the coaching staff in general. And again, nobody's job is safe, because we know the reputation of the Glazers. If the Glazers aren't getting what they feel like they've paid for, you're gone. You're out the door. I mean, I look at Tony Dungy. Tony Dungy was winning when he was let go. John Gruden was getting his team to the playoffs when he was released. Raheem Morris had a 10-win season, and going into a second season, he didn't do what he was expected to do, and he was released. And Greg Schiano should have never been here to begin with, and he was released. Lovie Smith, another guy. Lovie Smith didn't say the right things, and they looked at Dirk Cutter as an upgrade over him, and he was released. So again, these are things that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been dealing with for well over a decade. So what do you do? How do you fix this? And again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan base is not going to stand for any more, well, let's blow up the team and start all over again. This ain't Cleveland. You've got to fix this problem. You've got talent on this team. You've got playmakers on this team. Despite what other people may say about it outside of the league, this team has playmakers. If you can get them in their strengths to where they're playing to their strengths, it's possible that you can build off of that.
Yeah. And I would just say this. I think, the Glazers do a good job of they don't settle for mediocrity. I mean, they
Not
don't
at
want
all,
to
not
be
even a little
average.
bit.
They strive for excellence, and if they see fit to make a change, they're going to do it. And they look at these teams like the Rams and the Jaguars, who are both 7-3 and make quick turnarounds with new head coaches. That plays a part in it.
Yeah. Why isn't that happening here?
Well, it starts with making the right moves in the offseason. You have to make.
But again, that's the question I'm sure the Glazers are asking themselves. Why not here? It's happening there. Why not here? But
exactly. And everything has to work and go in cohesion. But again, if you don't have the coaches, like I said, to put the guys in the right spots and the right places to succeed, and they don't know how to utilize their team, it's not going to work. And it's shown consistently throughout this year. Have such random play calling where you're just throwing plays together. It looks like inconsistent execution, and it's occurred very often this season. We'll see what they can do against Atlanta. I think Atlanta is going to be a tough game. I don't see how we can. Now, I think their offensive line and defensive line is much better than ours. Ryan, obviously a better quarterback than Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's going to be a tough matchup going into this week. We're going to have to a little bit
and
with
you
the
know
turnovers.
what, man, I'm right there with you. I feel like they really need to. They need to bring the A game.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I will say is that Atlanta Falcons fans are trash, and they're a bunch of front runners. I never saw them expecting their team last year, never expecting their team to go to the playoffs even last year before they went to the Super Bowl. So now you've got all these jerks that are coming around trolling on other people's on podcasts, and your fan base is trash. I don't have anything good to say about Atlanta. I probably never will, because that's what they are, is a bunch of front runners. And at the end of the day, I hope they never win. I hope their Super Bowl trophy case stays empty until that thing what is that, a Rubik's Cube or whatever their stupid stadium, whatever that thing is, until that thing falls to the ground. I don't have nothing good to say about them. I don't have anything positive to say about them either. They're just, again, a bunch of front runners. And, they do good. They do good in the regular season. But when it gets to the postseason, you know what? They do what they do, and then they do what they do. Case in point, 28-3 lead. So let's move on. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Atlanta Falcons. And what is it going to take to beat this team?
Well, the Bucs are going to have to play really smart, but I don't know if they can do that because they haven't been smart pretty much the whole season. They're going to have to be disciplined on both sides of the ball. Happen. They're going to have to protect the football, pretty much win in the line of scrimmage, and I don't know if they can do that. They're going to have to run the football consistently, a balanced attack, and try to utilize their playmakers. Like I said last year, don't throw towards Desmond Trufant. Don't attack Trufant because he's really good and he'll intercept you. For whatever reason, the Bucs like to throw towards Desmond Trufant like they did last year, and he picked them off. So taking advantage of your mismatches, go after Robert Alford, who's small and gets called for pass interference a lot. So take advantage of that.
Is Freeman back from that concussion?
That's another good point. Tevin Coleman is a good, reliable backup. He's dangerous too, but Freeman makes them different as far as how they attack, and he's really good. So you got to stop the run. You have to force Matt Ryan into passing situations. Get him to move his feet, because if you get him to move his feet, he's not as good. He can make mistakes. So that's what it's going to come down to. Again, it's simple football. Getting after the quarterback, protecting the football, and making smart decisions, and converting in the red zone. But the Bucs haven't had much success of doing that, so I don't know. Atlanta, I think, is the easy favorite here. I think they just have a better team right now than the Bucs, and I kind of feel like it's going to be like game last year where easily move the ball down the field. I don't know if they'll score that many points, but it'll be one of those games where struggle to get the other team off the field.
Yeah. So again, I've said this all year, and even it was interesting to hear Deshaun Jackson say it, where Tampa has beaten themselves rather than a team beating Tampa. And I look at all these games going up to the last game, and I feel like any of these games, Tampa is capable of winning. So that's something that I'm kind of hanging my hat on, is that again, Tampa has the ability, Tampa has the players. Mm-hmm. They just have to put it all together and want to do it in order to win that game. But I do believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can win against the Atlanta Falcons at home.
Absolutely. I think we have the talent. My only concern is our coaching staff, and to be honest, I don't really have a lot of confidence in them. And that's what scares me as far as putting guys in the right position to succeed. And for whatever reason, do that consistently, and that's what scares me, especially against a team like the Falcons, who have a good coaching staff and Dan Quinn.
Yeah,
really put a good game plan together. Now, again, I think a positive note for us this week is Atlanta is coming from Seattle. Might be a little jet lagged. They might be a little hungover, which
they were on
might
flight
help us.
So hopefully that helped out too.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe Falcons off guard early in the game. Maybe create a lead and get after them a little bit, build confidence. So that might play a part in it. And plus, they're on a short week. It's a Monday night game, so they have less practice time. So that definitely plays a part. So yeah, the Bucs can win any game. Like we said, numerous times, this team has the talent to win every game. It's just about playing smart.
And what did you call that? They need to have the want to.
Yeah, the want to. Yep.
There you go.
To win. Yeah, it's a the will to win. You got to play with heart and passion, and you got to come out with the intensity, because when you're on the road, you have to match that home intensity. If you don't, you're just going to get blown out. We saw that in Arizona. We saw it in Minnesota.
Yeah.
You got to come out with that
the
fire.
One thing that I'm really excited about is seeing TJ Ward on the field more often.
Starting out.
It should have been that way from the beginning. I don't know what the reasoning was. I cannot justify the reasoning for not having a guy of his talent on the field on a regular basis to get him up to speed as quickly as possible so that he can help this team win. It didn't make any sense to me. But the fact that I'm seeing him on there, I'm good with that. And so you can kind of build off of that. Eric Moreno, do you think Jameis plays next week? Based on what I've read, no.
He's already been ruled out. He's already been ruled out for the game. So
as long as Fitz is playing the way he's playing, it's not perfect, but as long as he's not putting this team in, he's not giving this team the cutler, I think he will, they'll use him as much as possible.
Yeah, I think the longer it goes, I think Jameis is getting closer to just being shut down for the year, and I think that's
Absolutely.
eventually what's gonna. Yeah, I think eventually that's what's gonna happen. I don't see him playing against Green Bay, so you're getting into the final weeks of the season. Detroit maybe, and that's only if you win these next two games. If you're 6-6 and you're going into that Detroit game, maybe he comes back and
I think if
plays.
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in a position to go to the playoffs, I think you may see Jameis Winston activated at that time. But
Right.
based on what Fitz is doing right now, I just don't see them
Mhm.
activating Jameis Winston. There's no sense of urgency, so to speak.
Right, and I think if he does get shut down, let's say clearly we lose this week, I think there's actually a possibility you see Ryan Griffin get an opportunity just to see what he can do as a quarterback, and instead of Fitzpatrick. But I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it definitely it kind of looks that way. I feel our team doesn't agree or the like of the coaches. Again, this is one of those things where they have to go out and play.
Mhm.
Regardless of what you think of the coaches, regardless of what you think of the play calling, you have to go out and execute. And I get what people are saying, but at the end of the day, you still have to go out and play. Corey Fleming, do you think Marpet moves back to guard? Does the running game get better? No, I personally don't see. I don't see Ali Marpet moving anywhere. I think that what they've done, the experiment worked. I think they're going to keep him where he's at right now, and I think that will be of some benefit to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for years to come.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Marpet has been our best lineman so far this year. He's been outstanding at center, one of the highest graded players right now at center. So I think he stays there.
Yeah, there you go. So, again, and it's hard to believe. Wow, we're in an hour already.
Yeah.
I guess we can, this is this tis the season. We're rolling into the holiday season. Michael
Right.
Pless, thank you so much for being available. And
Mhm.
folks, this is my go-to guy right here. I don't know if you follow me on Twitter, but Michael Pless, he's able to answer a lot of questions that I've had. I was kind of frustrated with Reedy being let go. However,
Yeah.
Michael Pless set my mind at ease, and I feel a whole lot better. Hey, you wonder, you know what? Sean Castile asked, why won't they fucking throw the go route to Deshaun Jackson? Because there's no accuracy, and that's what
Yeah.
I see. Me personally, I can tell you in 3 games, Deshaun Jackson has been missed at least 8 times. And I would say
Mhm.
4 of those times were for touchdowns, where he had so much separation. I've seen Deshaun Jackson shake a defensive back to the point where he doesn't know where he is. And the quarterback, whether it's Fitz or whether it's Jameis, doesn't have the touch to get the ball to him. So, I'm just saying what it is. I love Jameis Winston. I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, sort of. And
Mhm.
again, they just aren't getting the job done when it comes to getting a ball out there to the wide receiver. If you watch closely, you'll see that Ryan Fitzpatrick has been throwing the ball behind where when you're having to do this. If you're running in stride and you're running and you have
Yeah.
to turn around and you have to do this and you have to adjust, you're not running in stride anymore. You have to adjust and do this to get the ball,
Mhm.
or you have to do this to get the ball, then turn around and you have to rebuild your momentum. It's not doing you any favors. So you could be the fastest guy in the world, but if you have to stop what you're doing and you have to turn around and adjust in order to get the ball and then turn
Mhm.
around and keep running, it's not helping you. It's not helping anybody. But when you're leading the ball and I'm catching the ball
Yeah.
here and I'm running and I catch the ball here, I don't have to stop. I don't have to turn around. I don't have to do anything. I can catch the ball and I can keep going straight ahead. And
right,
boom, that's a touchdown right there. However, if you're throwing the ball behind me, if you're throwing the ball the other way, I'm having to do all this. It's not helping me. And you know what? You don't get the most out of a weapon like a Deshaun Jackson, who's a guy who, if he catches a ball in stride, he's going to smoke anybody. He's smoking people like Cohibas if he gets the ball and he can do what he needs to do.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, you just can't force the deep ball. It's something that has to be set up, and the Bucs haven't done a very good job of setting up the deep ball this year. So that's probably why we're not seeing enough consistently. I know there's been opportunities, like you said, Deshaun's been open numerous times, and quarterback either just doesn't see him or he just can't hit him. And it's, it's just, I mean, there's really no way to put it, but they've done a poor job of setting it up and a poor job of executing it, and that's pretty much what it comes down to.
That's right. So, Michael Pless, what are you working on for this upcoming week, this holiday turkey dressing cranberry sauce weekend that we have coming up?
Check us out at realbuckstalk.com. I just put up a pretty good article of what I thought about the Dolphins game and how this team still doesn't have an identity for whatever reason. They can't figure out who they are. It's well in depth, and I think a lot of fans will enjoy it. I think a lot of fans will share the same sentiment as I do. As far as future articles, I think just going to talk more about the Falcons game upcoming, kind of what this team needs to focus on against this matchup. Again, don't throw the ball towards Desmond Trufant. I can't repeat that enough. He takes guys away, so stay away from him with your offense. But God, just don't throw him the ball. He is that good. Things on the Falcons. If you want to hit us up on Twitter, follow us at Real Bucs Talk. Same thing on Facebook. We try to answer as many questions as we can. Pretty much on there 24/7 to you as soon as possible. But yeah, our site is rolling, realbuckstalk.com. We have a lot of good stuff up there, content, videos. It's just good stuff right now, and I'm gonna be eating a lot of turkey on Thursday. And having fun and watching football, and hopefully the Cowboys lose again, and pretty much it.
Yeah, exactly. I hope everybody in the NFC South loses, to be very honest. And the Dallas Cowboys. I'm glad Zeke is out, and that just makes me happy. And it is the season, so I'm hoping that all these Dallas Cowboy fans can eat some humble pie and get full off of it. That's my hope for this holiday season.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for
pie.
me,
Pie.
I guess, to be very honest, what I'm thankful for are all the people that are following, listening, and checking us out. I'm very thankful for. I'm looking at the chat, and everybody that's just interacting in the chat makes me happy just to see that people have somewhere to go when I come on, and either air out their frustrations or let me know what they think that this team needs to do. And Michael Pless, I know that they appreciate you and what you bring to this podcast as well. So as much as I appreciate them, I know that they appreciate you as well. So just know that the efforts that you put forth are not for naught, because you do a great job and they do appreciate you as well. So again, I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here because exactly, Corey Harris, that's what I'm saying. Again, you will never hear me bash anybody unless it's a Falcons fan. But you won't hear me bash anybody for what they have to say, coming on here into the chat. We've had guys from the Chicago Bears. I've had guys from the Minnesota Vikings. I've had guys from the Saints, guys from the Panthers come on here. Everybody's been respectful. with the exception of the Atlanta Falcons. So that pretty much tells you what our division and what the league is all about. So again, the guys that come on here and talk about what they talk about, very good content, very high football IQ, and you guys are appreciated. Again, hit me up on Twitter. If you guys are on Twitter, hit me up at Super Heavyweight. If you get a chance, please follow Michael Pless. This guy, I can't say enough good things about him. And when you've got the GM of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers following you, you know that you're doing the right thing. So again, this guy, he's doing his thing. And I couldn't ask for a better co-host than Michael Pless. But that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you.
And Rocco, Amazement, Corey Harris, and anybody else that I potentially missed here. Corey Fleming, Eric Moreno, Amazement 717. All you guys are awesome, and I really appreciate you. And again, hit me up on Twitter. If you're following me, DM me and let me know about these shirts. I'll definitely be working on getting that done. Buck the World UKJ1. I appreciate everybody. So enjoy your time off. Enjoy the football, because you know what? We're not going to have it in come January, February. After that, we're not going to have it. So enjoy football right now as much as you can, and make the most of it. And remember, buck what you heard, and if you can, get into some of that real Bucs talk. Talk to you later, and that's it for us.